Welcome to Running Hot, Action Network's motorsports betting podcast. I'm your host, Nick Giffen, predictive analyst here at Action Network. And joining me, the red hot Stephen Young of RotoGrinders swept the bets last week. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. StevieTPFL, as he's known. And this week, we're previewing the Cookout 400 at Martinsville Speedway here on Running Hot. Last weekend at Homestead, Kyle Larson, past teammate Alex Bowman late, giving Larson his second career Cup Series win at Homestead and his first win of the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series season. Looking good there as far as getting an early win for our over on his wins prop. Bubba Wallace rounded out a very strong day where he pretty much ran top five all race, ended up finishing third to round out the top three there. Stevie, we always like Homestead. So, instead of asking you what you thought of the race was a good race or whatever, where do you rank it in terms of maybe just Homestead races overall? Because, I think this was a good one, but I don't think it necessarily was the best one.
Yeah, I mean, the last 50 laps is cool. We finally got that long run and we saw Kyle Larson, rep the boards. I really wanted to see what was going to happen if Blaney didn't blow up, because I think it would have been an awesome battle between Larson and Blaney to win the race, because Blaney was really fast. Larson was really fast after about 20 laps, but Blaney he didn't really fall off. He didn't have to turn the wheel as much as everybody else, I feel like, and he didn't really have fall off, and it stunk that his engine expired. Good betting day, terrible DFS day, because I had 60% Blaney. So
mine was the opposite. I had a terrible betting day. I was on a couple bets I felt really strongly about, and they were absolutely horrible. Keselowski and Ty Gibbs, who both looked really good in practice, especially Ty Gibbs. And we're at the point where Ty Gibbs, you have to avoid him completely. We said you have to kind of avoid him completely going in, and then he put up practice times that were mirroring Kyle Larson's, and I'm like, okay, I'll buy in on Ty Gibbs one last time. But I actually had a really good DFS day. I was pretty big on Justin Haley and what's his name? Zane Smith, and they finished 10th and 11th. So it's nice when you get your cheap guys finishing there. And then Larson and Blaney were definitely my top two high dollar picks, but also, liked some other guys. So, okay, DFS day, bad betting, opposite for you, but continue those Homestead thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the race was good. As far as ranking, it's so hard to rank against some of the championship races here. I mean, we're hearing rumors that the championship's going back to Homestead next year. Yeah. I think that will be epic. We just didn't see a better truck race. The Xfinity race was awesome outside of Larson losing our 3-leg parlay up 20 seconds with 9 laps to go, and a caution comes out, so we missed the parlay. But yeah, I mean, overall, I love Homestead, so I'm not going to sit here and have anything really bad to say. I agree with you on Bubba Wallace. I think it was awesome for Alex Bowman, qualified well, ran upside. I mean, his average running position was 3.7. Alex Bowman had speed. It was really good to see. I just don't think anyone in that particular situation is beating Larson. I mean, you can't rip the boards like him and create speed. You get a 50-lap run, Larson's going to beat you. I mean, that's just how he wins at Homestead. And if we look back to some of the championship races early in his career when he was with Chip Ganassi, he let those guys kind of battle it out and didn't go up there and, mess up a championship. But, I mean, I think he'd have 5-6 wins here if that were the case. But, yeah, I mean, the Ty Gibbs thing, I think you nailed it. Super concerned about him in general. Keselowski was really weird because it was a high tire wear track, and, he really kind of fell off on the long run, which is completely opposite. And Priest and Buescher were good enough that we're what's going on with Kez? So I think you nailed those 2 points. Aspire Motorsports looks awesome to start the season. And hey, I mean, we talked about it last week on the podcast with AJ's top 10. I think we got it plus 250. There's just some drivers that are really good at this racetrack. Austin Dillon almost got us that long shot top 10 that you talked about. He finished 13th. So I think you just keep trusting stuff when you go back to Homestead next year of who's good there is just going to run good there. I mean, that's my takeaway from Homestead.
Yeah. One other takeaway. Look, Alex Bowman, you mentioned him, top 4, I shouldn't say top 4, but better than 4th place average running position, one of the best cars in the race. Alex Bowman in 6 races this year, 5 top 10s, a 6th, a 9th, a 7th, a 7th, and a 2nd. He's 3rd in the points. Remember, he had that back injury a couple years ago, shortly after Chase Elliott had his leg injury. are these guys back, like Chase Elliott and especially Alex Bowman? Are they finally like back and fully recovered from their injuries? Because a back injury is a big deal in NASCAR because you feel the car with your butt through your butt and your lower back and all that. Alex Bowman seems like he's back right now.
Well, I mean, Chase was running top 5 when he got the pit penalty. So, I mean,
Yep.
we've seen a lot of speed out of him. So, yeah, I mean, we talked about this in our preseason show this year about how we feel like it was enough time where like we were going to see Chase, and we didn't really talk about Alex Bowman, but I think you bring up a great point. I think with the Hendrick cars, these guys are back. I mean, Hendrick is fast to start the season. Like you look at just overall speed, and I mean, they're all up there. It's not just the two of, Byron and Larson. So I think we're going to see a lot of wins out of the Hendrick camp this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. And one of those wins could come this weekend at Martinsville. They've always been good here. Martinsville, a half-mile bull ring. They call it the paperclip because it is 2 180-degree turns and 2 straightaways, really kind of long straightaways relative to the half mile. So it looks like the shape of a paperclip, but very flat banked. One of the flattest we go to all season, along with New Hampshire. But Stevie, Martinsville is always an interesting race and always an interesting beast. Talk about racing at Martinsville.
Yeah, I mean, so for the first 5 races of the next gen car, Martinsville was follow the leader. Realistically, there wasn't a lot of passing. We saw races just absolutely dominated from the front. So, and you go and you look at the last race here with the tire that they brought. It was a softer tire, and we saw a lot of passing on the outside. We saw a lot of fall off towards the end of runs, and it was just a completely different Martinsville race from the first 5 that we saw, and we have that same tire this weekend. So I'm hoping, and I know you're probably hoping the same, that we have that fall off. We have, comers and goers at Martinsville, and we have a second lane because, I mean, follow the leader where you're racing just on pit road and like in traffic is just not my style of racing. I like the old Martinsville, use the bumper and be able to do stuff. So I think Martinsville has changed a lot over the years. But if you look at Martinsville's stats, I mean, it's basically the same 5 to 10 guys that run up front.
Yeah, I will say one thing I do notice with Martinsville is the spring race does tend to be more follow the leader than the fall playoff race. I feel like all 3 fall playoff races have been much better in terms of passing. Obviously, we remember the Hail Melon, but I just remember that whole race being pretty solid because drivers could move through the field. And then last year in the playoff race, we saw Ryan Blaney just carve his way through the field. So definitely felt like the playoff race is a little bit more pass happy than this race here, the Cookout 400. So track position could be very, very key. And, we are looking at kind of a cold day at Martinsville on Sunday. So, weather forecast is, we'll talk about the weather forecast for sure. But as far as temperature, it's looking a little bit like it could be in the 60s, which, cloud cover, which might make it a little bit tough to pass as well. But we'll see. As far as evaluating Martinsville, besides looking at track history itself, what else are you doing to evaluate Martinsville?
Absolutely nothing. I do not. I mean, I don't comp really any track. I'll look at a little bit of speed from this year, but it's so. I mean, practice is so important just to see, like, because we'll get probably 28 to 30 cars that run like a 30 lap run in practice, and we'll be able to look at the data and be like, all right, well. But even practice, I mean, the data is not perfect because you'll get stuck in traffic and you won't be able to run like clean laps and everything. So, I mean, I don't really look at a lot. I think Martinsville is kind of a unique place and just kind of go from there. But track position is really important. The other stat that I absolutely love at this place is pit road data. Who's been good on pit road to start the year? Who hasn't? And looking at the pit road data, Larson's number 1, not shocked. Bubba Wallace, second best pit road average pit stop right now. Ryan Preece, 3rd. William Byron, 4th. Chris Buescher. So we see 2 Roush Fenway cars up there. And I will say Denny Hamlin's team has been really, really fast over the last 2 races. So just some notes there because pit road is very condensed and it's very important to have fast pit stops here. We see races won on pit road a lot at Martinsville.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is definitely a premium pit stop place, especially when you have those cautions and how important track position can be. Pit stops ultimate importance. I don't know if you saw that Ryan Preece pit stop this past weekend, but that number 60 crew absolutely killed it on one of those stops, one of the fastest stops we've ever seen in the next gen car. So yeah, I was hoping you'd mention Ryan Preece there because that pit crew is on fire. But definitely pit road data is one of those intangibles. But the other intangible coming into play this weekend, I alluded to it, the rain, possibly. As I look at it right now, and it's shifted a little bit throughout, the course of the day today, Wednesday, as we're recording, and it'll continue to shift. But as of right now, what I'm looking at, right around 3 p.m. Eastern time, which is about, the green flag schedule for shortly after 3 p.m. Eastern, that's right when the rain kicks up from about 40% to about 50% chance of rain. So we're almost at a coin flips chance of rain during this race. Now, they won't race in the active rain unless it's, maybe like at best misty or something, but they will start the race early when they come from a rain delay, with a damp track and use the rain tires at Martinsville. So how does that affect things this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge factor because, they won't race, like you said, they won't race when it's raining, but they'll dry the track and they'll get it where, all right, it's damp, let's go race. I think one of the other things that we need to remember is Martinsville has lights now. Like for the longest time, Martinsville didn't have lights, and it's really early in the week for rain forecast. It looks like it stops raining around 7, so let's just put them under the lights and let them go race in the lights. The thing is, this race isn't on Fox, it's on FS1, so I'm hoping if we get a little bit of a damp track, we're not going to get a fully wet track, go out there and everybody wreck. We are in the entertainment business nowadays with NASCAR, it feels like sometimes. But I still feel like they're going to dry the track where it's damp conditions, go out and make one run on wet tires, come in, put your set on, and go out and race on dry tires, which adds potentially another pit stop and strategy. And this race has a lot of stuff going on here on Wednesday when we're recording this, but you're going to have to kind of pay attention to all this stuff throughout the week, especially on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. And, even just making that first rain run, I think or I shouldn't say rain run, but, wet tire run could be important because the only other time the Cup Series has run on an oval in the wet was New Hampshire. I believe it was last year. We saw a little bit of a damp track run. We saw some comers and goers in that scenario. So I think it's important to keep that in mind because, look, I know it might be the only set of tires where one run on wet tires or damp track tires, but if you go a lap down on that because you're struggling in the wets, that's a game changer. And it makes things a little bit tough this early in the week to kind of handicap things and our picks. And I think you'll see that with the theme throughout this show. So it is time to dive into those bets. We're going to drive through the race stage by stage. Stevie and I will give a pick each in stage 1 as our shorter odds bet. Then another pick in stage 2 for our longer odds bet. Finally, we race through stage 3 all the way to the checkered flag and end up in victory lane. So it's time to throw the green flag on the Cookout 400 and fire off for stage 1. All right, stage 1, Stevie, your shorter of your 2 outrights you're given here on Running Hot this week. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go to William Byron at 8-1, so plus 800 to win this race. So early run of my model, looking at odds and stuff, I don't have a lot of value on top 10s, which is usually the opposite of when I come on here on Wednesday. I usually have value on top 10s that I like, and I didn't bet any top 10s yet. So really like this William Byron bet. He's won 2 of the 6 here in the next-gen car. He's been up there running for the race win. I feel like every time we've been at Martinsville with the next-gen car, but he was really fast last year here. Both tires that we ran, every race that we've run here with the next-gen car, he's been fast. So, yeah, I have a lot of interest in William Byron. Won one of the races last year. The spring race, which we talked about, is a little bit more friendly for track position. And this is a guy that just has this place figured out. So, like the odds here at 8-1, I don't think the rain is going to be a huge factor for the Hendrick cars. They're just so fast to start the season. And again, pit road matters, and this team has been lights out on pit road. So just kind of factoring everything in here and hoping the rain doesn't play a huge factor. I'm going to take one of the guys top 4 in my model for a race win at 8-1.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, William Byron is one of the guys I always look to when we come to Martinsville, always running near the front. And I think it was the 2022 race, the first race here in the next gen era. He and Chase Elliott were leading a good chunk of that race, especially in this spring race, right? The Cookout 400. They were running 1-2 for a lot of that race. So William Byron, definitely a contender at 8-1. And those Hendrick cars, as you mentioned, just this year have been on fire. So definitely an option there for my stage one pick. Well, I've only made one bet this week, so I'm not going to give it in stage one. I'll give my pick in stage two because it is kind of a longer odds bet. But I do just want to stress in stage one here for me, this weather uncertainty can change things. Maybe it ends up, that it's a completely dry race, and then I'd be happy to bet some of these favorites or shorter odds guys. Or maybe all of a sudden it looks like we could have spotty rain on and off throughout the afternoon and evening. And at that point, we might have multiple damp track runs, especially because we have the lights with Martinsville. So there's a lot of ways this could go. And I think it's important to stress patience. You don't have to commit to a ton of bets here early in the week. Heck, you don't have to bet at all if you don't want to. I mean, it's perfectly reasonable to say, I don't like anything. That way, yeah, you may not win any money, but you're not going to lose any money if you make no bets, right? So you just want to bet when the odds are right and when the odds you think are in your favor. And right now, for me, I think there's enough uncertainty with the weather forecast and how things could play out. But also, I just think there's a lot of good drivers and good situations that make things a lot tougher. You look at, for me, Josh Berry already has a race win this year, and I've been eyeing him. We talked about it on the preseason pod, looking at him at short flat tracks in that number 21, which is essentially a Penske affiliated car, right? So we know how good Penske runs here. Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, and even Austin Cindric's had a top 5 run here. So Josh Berry, all of a sudden you add him much more into the mix. Ryan Preece, always in the mix in a Stewart Haas car in the past couple of years. Now he is in a Roush Fenway Keselowski equipment. So, a lot of things could come into play here. Even in the rain, what if SVG just, dominates in the damp or something like that because he's so good in the rain? You just never know how these things are going to go. So, just stressing the importance of a little bit of patience here, but definitely still take the value when you can find it, right, Stevie?
Yeah, I mean, again, like the outrights on betting are, I bet 3 outrights, and they're 3 of the top 5 in my model to win the race,
Mhm.
and I feel like the odds are good enough where I feel good about it. But like overall, like being patient this week is not bad because we practice and qualify on Saturday afternoon. We'll have a really good idea of where we're at weather-wise by Saturday
Yeah.
afternoon. And I mean, if you like something, you can wait all the way up until right before practice and qualifying kicks off to get the number you want, or you just hope the person qualifies bad. And I mean, this is a week
Yeah.
where bankroll management is always important. You and I stress this a lot. We talk about it a lot. It's always important, but also just like you said, be patient. I mean, there's no reason to rush into betting anything this week. I'm just betting, like I said, 3 of my top 5 at odds that I don't typically get 3 of my top 5, and I
Yeah.
bet all 3 of them because it made a lot of sense to bet all 3 of them. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at this week.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll be talking about another one of those 3 in stage 2. All right, we took the green and white checkered in at the end of stage 1, filled up, got our tires. Stevie, what do you have as your second outright pick here in stage 2?
Yeah, I'm going to stay in the Hendrick camp. I'm going to go to Chase Elliott at 9-1 here. Absolutely love this one. He ranked first in speed here at Martinsville last year in both races. It wasn't just one. So both tire combos that we had last year, he averaged 52 fastest laps in the races, averaged 96 laps led, just absolutely dominated. Ran inside the top 5 almost both races, outside of some pit stops and stuff. Like, this was the car to beat. And he just kind of lost it late in the race to his teammates. And then Blaney ended up beating him late in the race. And you feel like if it's anybody but Blaney in that situation, maybe Chase runs him a little bit harder, but there's a lot of respect between Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney. And Ryan Blaney was definitely the better car late in that fall race. And, that's kind of why we saw like Elliott. I wouldn't even say let him by. There's no way Chase let him by. but he didn't run him as hard as I think he probably could have, blocked a little bit more. I think Chase Elliott, this is his first win of the season. I absolutely love this. Like I said at the beginning of the year, we just talked about it a little while ago. We think these guys are back, and this is a great opportunity for Chase to kind of show that he's back because this is a really good racetrack for him.
Oh, yeah, I fully agree with you. If I was going to make a single outright bet, when odds dropped before I was thinking about rain, I was specifically looking at Chase Elliott. And then I didn't really look at odds up until today. And once I saw the forecast, I was like, all right, yeah, I'm going to hold off. But
yeah,
first thing on my mind when odds came out in terms of, what, even before I went and looked at them, I should say, was like, I'm curious about Chase Elliott's odds because typically we've been getting them at kind of long odds, like 18, 20, 22 in some of these races. And I knew there's going to be a better track for him, so his odds would be shorter than those numbers, but I still figured they'd probably be on the longer side of the favorites. And so right there with you, I think 9-1, everything dry, I probably would be on Chase Elliott there as well. My stage 2 pick is a bit of an interesting one. I'm not even really playing to the rain. I'm just playing to a driver that I think is going to be undervalued here, and that's Cole Custer for a top 10 finish at 14-1 odds at FanDuel. Definitely want to make sure you get the best line possible on him because I really like it at 14. Do I like it at something like 650 or 7-1? Not as much, not really. So make sure you're getting the best odds you can on Cole Custer here for a top 10 finish. But what I really like about this, we mentioned that 2022 race where Chase Elliott and William Byron ran up towards the front, 1-2 a lot of that race. Well, here's the thing. Guess who ran third to them for a lot of that race? Cole Custer. Cole Custer in that number 41 Stewart-Haas Racing Ford qualified third, finished third in stage 1, finished fifth in stage 2, and then had a penalty which sent him to the back. And because you couldn't pass, he ended up, the leaders ended up catching him. And at that point, the leaders were the only ones who could pass. So he ended up going a lap down, finishing 21st, I believe it was. But he had a top 5, top 10 car for sure in that race. It just didn't quite work out with getting that penalty between stage 2 and stage 3 there. So Cole Custer, in addition, later that year finished 14th at Martinsville. And in his first year in 2020 with Stewart-Haas Racing, had a 13th place finish at Martinsville. Now, he's on Haas Factory Team, which is kind of the de facto continuation, I guess, if you will, of Stewart-Haas Racing, which is since left the sport. But they also have that RFK Alliance, the Roush Fenway Keselowski Alliance. We know Keselowski's been good here. We know Ryan Preece is always strong here. So they should have a lot of good notes to work with from, Stewart-Haas Racing's past and from that RFK Alliance there. So I think there's a lot of potential here for Cole Custer to be just undervalued at a track that he's been pretty solid at throughout his career. So, just adding a little bit of rain. Who was really good in the rain in that New Hampshire race was Stewart-Haas Racing. All of those cars came forward in the rain. So, in the damp conditions, I should say. So just one little extra thing to keep in mind there. So Cole Custer, 14-1 for a top 10 finish. But again, make sure you're getting probably at least double-digit odds there. What do you think, Stevie?
Yeah, I wouldn't take this under 14-1. I mean, he ranks 28th in speed to start the season on non-super speedways. So I know a lot of the Stewart-Haas employees left and a lot of the really good key pieces of that team left, and they're in different places. And my concern is, we've had some decent tracks for Custer. Homestead's a really decent track for him and just nowhere to be found. So we
saw that in the past with Stewart-Haas. So they just didn't have speed in the intermediates, but they were so much better on the short flats.
Yeah, I mean, you make sense, right? It all makes sense. But yeah, I mean, listen, you can gamble on this one. I'm gonna sit this one out. I like tailing you on these, but if Custer, I'm gonna be rooting for you for Cole Custer to get a top 10. He has not passed the eye test at all for me yet this year, and I worry again. Like I said, a lot of the key pieces of Stewart-Haas have left, and you would think that with the RFK relationship that we would see some speed, and it just hasn't been there yet.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, he did also not really get to show all his stuff at Phoenix. Was caught in that lap 98, 99 crash or whatever it was. So, looked better at Phoenix, kind of in the mid 20s or something like that, which, isn't really. Cole Custer's been good at Phoenix, but he hasn't been, especially in the Cup Series, great at Phoenix.
Yeah.
But he's been a little better at Martinsville. I think Martinsville's been one of his best tracks in the Cup Series. So I'm willing to go with it, especially in a track position heavy race, where if you can just get that track position, you can maintain it. It might be really hard to pass this weekend. So, Stevie and I are a little bit of. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, this is one of those races where you have a guy like a wheelman like Cole Custer, and, like, he comes in 10 laps before anybody and puts the dry tires on and gains track position that he can keep the rest of the race if, like, the rain or the wets become a thing. So, like, it's not crazy to take somebody that like this that's 14-1. And that's why you were talking about Josh Berry. I love his potential strategy upside this weekend because he has that win and, like, that scenario where the track is wet, we've run 40 laps and we got to make green flags pit stops. Well, I have a win. I'm going to go put my dry tires on and follow the leader until everybody pits and then drive past everybody. I mean, listen, I hear you on the 14-1. Like I said, it's not like something I'd bet like 8-1, but you're taking a 14-1 top 10. It's not like you're betting a guy that's like plus 150. You know the risk going in. You're just hoping that maybe everything for Haas factory team all clicks on the same weekend.
Yeah, I mean, we're a little different this weekend for sure. I don't think necessarily it all has to click on the same weekend. I think, part of it is the driver, and I think the driver is pretty good here. So, that's all I got there. But, stage 2 for me, Cole Custer, top 10, 14-1. And for Stevie, he is taking Chase Elliott 9-1. And in a spot, I do agree with him. If it wasn't with the potential rain in the forecast, I would definitely be right there with him. So 2 stages down, we're going to drive through stage 3 and into victory lane. And Steve, this is a first for the Running Hot podcast.
It is.
We've never had this happen, but we do not have a victory lane pick. We both Stevie and I have different views on this race. And I think that's good because a lot of times, almost all the time, we agree, but we're kind of different for Martinsville this week. So, I like Ryan Preece. I like Josh Berry outrights. Like if I'm going to take an outright earlier in the week, I want it to be a long shot before they qualify up front, before we know while there's a lot of uncertainty with the weather. When there's a lot of uncertainty, I want to take longer shots. And when there's more certainty, I want to go with the shorter odds bets. So just kind of my philosophy there. And I was like, what do you think about Preece or Berry? And you're like, well, I'm not really there on their outrights. And you floated a couple other names for me. And I was like, oh, I'm not there for those guys. So no victory lane pick.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we have always been upfront and honest on this show. And I think that's one of the reasons that people like us so much. I think people like us so much. We'll just be honest. I mean, we didn't agree on a victory lane pick this week, and it's rare. Like, I would love to bet Preece or Berry at like 40-1, and we're just not getting them that long because they actually have a legit chance to win. And we're just not there this week. Yeah, it happens. We're not there. We're honest. We're upfront. We'll come back next week. We'll be at Darlington. You and I will probably be on the same page. We typically are at Darlington in some of these tracks, and we'll have a victory lane pick that we hope hits next week. We hit last week, so we're ahead on the victory lane picks for a couple weeks. So, we'll ride with that and, just be upfront and say we didn't agree. And I mean, it's perfectly fair to say we didn't agree on anything.
And what's probably going to happen is we're going to get through practice and qualifying or all that and have a better weather forecast, and then we'll be on the same page, right? That's what's probably going to happen.
You'll send me a message or text and you'll be like, yeah, I bet Chase Elliott, or and I'll be like, exactly. Ryan Preece qualified terrible. I'm going to bet him too. So I mean, we'll see what Saturday. And it goes back to your stage 1 thoughts, right? Just be patient this week. Like, too much stuff in the forecast to sit here and say, love this stuff. And I mean, I talked through it when I talked about Byron and Elliott. Denny Hamlin was my other bet that I bet outrights. Like, there are 3 of the top 5 in my model. And if any of them win, I'm like up 4 units or 5 units or something, depending on who wins. So I'm okay with that type of bet. And I'm okay with losing the 3 units if the weather becomes a huge issue. So that's just where I'm at this week. And I think being patient and just kind of hanging out is perfectly okay this week.
Yeah. One final question I have for you, kind of off the cuff here. Tyler Reddick has always struggled at Martinsville. But it reminds me of like Kyle Larson, right? He always struggled at Martinsville to start his career. And we compare Tyler Reddick to Kyle Larson a lot because, a lot of the same career trajectories has happened with these two guys. Is this the year Tyler Reddick breaks through? Because, last year he finished 7th at Martinsville. It's his best career Martinsville finish. Didn't really run inside the top 10 most of that first half of the race, but ended up finishing 7th in the first of the 2 Martinsville races last year. When does he put it together here?
I don't know. So I'll say this about any of the dirt guys. If we do get more tire fall off on a long run, those are always the guys you're going to be looking at any type of racetrack. So maybe this new tire helps Reddick. We didn't see him run a lot. He was in that early issue. He had early issues. I think he was with like Busher or something, right? Like, didn't they have early issues or something last race? But hey, listen, we're always rooting for Tyler Reddick. We are very 2311 friendly on this show. We're always rooting for those guys.
Yeah, so that was our final thoughts there in Victory Lane. That is going to do it for us. Thank you for listening to the Cookout 400 episode of Running Hot, Action Network's Motorsports Betting Podcast. If you'd like to tell some of the bets we discussed today, look for the quick slip link in the podcast and video description, or go to actionnetwork.com/bet now. We'll be back next week to talk bets for the Goodyear 400 at Darlington Raceway. On behalf of my co-host, Stephen Young, thanks again for listening. We'll see you back here next week on Running Hot from Action Network.